those are kind of the situations where that pops up. When that happens, you want to address it immediately. And that usually involves getting a lawyer to send a cease and desist and doing potentially a takedown claim, things like that. So there's legal remedies you have when that happens, and it's just not letting anything sit. Do not think you can handle it on your own. Do not let things sit.
Welcome to the Making Sales Social podcast, featuring the top voices in sales, marketing, and business. Join Bryn Tillman and me, Bob Woods, as we each bring you the best tips and strategies our guests are teaching their clients, so you can leverage them for your own virtual and social selling. Enjoy the show.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to today's episode of the Making Sales Social podcast. I'm Stan Robinson, Chief Coaching Officer here at Social Sales Link. And today we're thrilled to have attorney Anna Janeja here with us. Anna, how are you today?
I'm doing great. Thank you so much for having me. Excited to be here.
Yep, our pleasure. Let me give everyone a little bit of your background just by way of brief introduction. So Anna is a distinguished IP or intellectual property attorney based in Washington, D.C., and the founder of Anna Media in New York. And Anna specializes in trademark and patent law, managing a substantial global IP portfolio for top brands in a number of different industries. And her firm, Anna Law, offers comprehensive services from patent filings to global portfolio management. And Anna's approach basically integrates traditional legal practices with modern digital strategies, making her a pioneer in leveraging digital platforms for intellectual property law. So again, thanks. And the question that we ask each one of our guests is, what does making sales social mean to you in your context?
So I've never actually had this question before, and I thought it was really interesting, just the wording of it. And off the top of my head, as a business owner, I want to say that social selling, so to speak, is really just not selling at all for me. It's more about providing value and building a community and building a network and just doing it online or even in person. But for me, I've found that doing it online and doing it through social media has been really beneficial, because you can provide value in a way on social media that you cannot, person to person all the time, unless you are maybe a professor or a teacher or have some sort of designated forum where you are providing value. But social media allows business owners of anywhere they are, of any industry, to be able to provide value and therefore socially sell themselves, brand themselves without actually having to sell.
Yes, I love the way you've defined it, even though your background is legal rather than professional sales, like a lot of the organizations that we work with. What you mentioned in terms of value is something that we come back to all the time, because for us, social selling starts and ends with building relationships and building trusted relationships without being salesy. So as you said, social selling is a little bit of a misnomer, because we're really using these platforms to build relationships and earn the right for people to turn to us to buy from us when the time is right for them. So I really appreciate the way you put that in the context of your business, since you are an owner of multiple businesses. So I did want to, let's jump into intellectual property, since that's your area of expertise. Can you describe these days, and we'll come to AI a little bit later, but just how intellectual property strategies are crucial for businesses? In our context, it's those involved in social selling, but just businesses in general.
So I guess before I answer that, just so I can give the best answer, who is the primary listener group? Is it service-based businesses, product-based businesses, or corporate, C-suite? What's the general guideline for me? And I'll give a good answer then.
Great. It's all those who are responsible for generating revenue. Now, that can include sales leaders, sales teams, entrepreneurs, business leaders in small to medium-sized businesses who are wearing multiple hats, and they're running the business, but they're also responsible for selling. So those are the primary listeners.
Okay, so that's helpful. So I will say, I think everybody in every business should have sales skills, because I would never hire someone who doesn't have sales skills or who doesn't want to do sales, because that just means they don't really believe in your vision and your business. At least small business owners should have that mindset at least. But so generally, where does intellectual property intersect with sales and social selling? I'm assuming that a lot of these people are doing some form of content marketing, or they are online. Maybe they're doing email newsletters. Maybe they're doing social media. Maybe they are hosting events and online, things of that nature. So anytime that you are involved in that as somebody who is presenting something to the public, right, you may run into intellectual property issues, maybe defensively in this case, where you want to be sure that you are not infringing on other people's intellectual property. You're not using their copyrighted content. You are not using their trademarked brands in a way you shouldn't be. There's a lot of exceptions to all of this, and being just really aware of what you're actually putting out, who owns the right to it, if you have permission, or if there's some exception that would potentially save you if you got caught. Those are all things that, people who are on the forefront of content creation really need to think about, which is pretty much, all businesses and salespeople these days.
Exactly, because most of our audience, as you described, is using content as one of the primary ways that they deliver value over social media. For example, in LinkedIn training, we always talk about posting content and engaging with other people's content as a way of demonstrating their expertise, bringing value to any conversations that they become part of, and also just bringing value to their audience based on what they post. So what you said is just exactly right about our audience is using content all the time to position themselves as a resource to their potential clients, demonstrate their expertise, and make sure that they stay visible without selling all the time.
Right.
Yep. So what you said is exactly right. Now, you alluded to the risk side of things, which is why we're delighted to be talking with you today, because a lot of times that's not an area that most of us think about. What are some of the common challenges that, say, you see businesses face, particularly, say, the smaller to medium-sized ones, maybe not those that have large corporate legal teams?
Well, even the large corporate legal teams, they can run into issues too. The good thing about the law, at least allegedly, the good thing about the law is that it applies to everybody the same, right? But maybe corporate legal teams, they have a lot more red tape and clearance before their marketing teams are posting things. So that deters some quote unquote bad behavior that might result in consequences, right? Whereas smaller businesses or individual salespeople, they might not have that guidance. So some of the big risk factors that come into play is during that content creation process, not necessarily engagement. I think people tend to go onto other people's posts and give their own thoughts or give some sort of commentary on that. And that has very little risk, because it's unlikely that you are using other people's thoughts to go and engage. Maybe you are, don't do that then, right? Like use your own thoughts to engage. But when it comes to creating content itself, especially in today's day and age where you, depending on what type of business or salesperson you are, you might be creating mass amounts of content. And, you may be tempted to take the easy way out, maybe copy someone else's, maybe use their name in a defamatory way that will cause potential trademark defamation issues. You may be wanting to use somebody else's photos or a photo from Google, or you're trying to use a lot of AI content, and AI content doesn't necessarily have the risk where you'll get sued back, but you can't protect AI content. So when you create using AI content, someone else can copy you, and you don't have any recourse. So there's risks where you copy someone else, and then there's risks of someone else copying you, neither of which are good, right? You don't want to get in trouble for doing something wrong, and you don't want somebody to do something wrong for you when you're investing all this time, money, energy into creating content. You want to be able to at least own it, protect it, all of that. So those are kind of the big risk factors. Defamation is another risk factor with content as well. So you can't say untrue things or even inflamed things that are defamatory. There's certain guidelines of what would be considered defamation and what would not. You're not allowed to do that and get away with it, especially if the other person is large brand, or even if they're a small business, they're not really going to like that. And so you have to be careful with that, because you're not just now infringing on IP rights. Sometimes you are personally going after people, and they will personally go after you.
Okay. Yeah, the defamation side, especially in the world of social media, I guess you could do a whole podcast episode just on that.
Yeah.
But there seem to be two sides. One is making sure that you don't expose yourself to legal liability in the sense of stepping on someone else's toes, so to speak. And then the other is protecting yourself.
Yes. Protecting your own, creations and content that you are investing into.
Okay. Can we talk a little bit about each of those? First, just are there any tips that you have for businesses in terms of protecting themselves, things that maybe they need to be aware of when creating content?
So I guess we'll start with how to reduce the liability when you're creating content of stepping on other people's toes. So the best way to do this is to create original content. So this means use your own photos, use your own videos, come up with your own video scripts, come up with your own posts and content yourself. So keep it original. That is the best and only way to 100% be sure that it's yours, right? Alternatively, you can, go use agencies, or you can use companies that provide you with royalty-free music, photos, things of that nature, and you can use some of that. You can also use AI to do some of this. There's a lot of gray area with AI, though, so I don't want to give too much that, yes, if you use AI, it's no liability. We don't know necessarily yet that it's no liability, but nobody owns AI created content. There's maybe potentially reduced risk there, but the best thing to do is to create original content. I also, just as a business owner, as a media company owner, and a business owner myself who's used, content marketing for a couple of years now, you're always going to get the best results, even if it's more difficult, more time consuming, more energy. You're going to get the best results when you are original and authentic. So that is not only the best and safest way to avoid stepping on other people's toes, but it's also the best way to just sell, provide value, let people get to know you, build your personal brand. There's actually two components to growing on social media. I think one is providing value, and the other is kind of selling your personality, which is not really selling value or showcasing value, but it is a very important element of social selling, so to speak. So, I always say if there's two companies or two offers that are exactly the same, there's a reason that somebody picks one over the other. And that goes more into the personal brand personality type of thing versus just having a really good offer or product or service. So, there's value that's being provided with whatever the offer is and whatever potential information or sales pitch is being given to get people to buy that offer, but there's a human element to that as well. So just creating original content is beneficial on all of those fronts. And that is the foolproof way, to not be infringing on other people's intellectual property.
Yes. Good. Boy, there are so many different directions. One thing that you did mention was personal brand. And that is definitely one way to distinguish yourself from everybody else. With sales professionals, when they're selling against competition that has products that are similarly priced to theirs, offer similar features, capabilities, a lot of times the distinguishing feature is going to be the sales professional themselves.
Right.
It's what do they bring to the whole process. For an individual, since we mentioned personal brand, other than producing original content, is there anything else they need to think about in terms of, say, protecting their personal brand, so to speak?
If somebody is really serious about what they do and they're really serious about their professional brand, whether you are a sales professional or because a sales professional, that's a stepping stone. You might be working for a corporate company, or you might be working for as an extension, maybe contractor of other smaller companies, whatever your situation is with your role as a salesperson, that sales skill is transferable. So if you ever decide to launch your own business or go to a different business, you're taking that skill set with you. And so you yourself as a salesperson, it's very valuable to, of course, grow your expertise in an industry, right? If you are selling mortgages, then maybe you're going to go from one mortgage company to the other. It's very unlikely, that you're going to be this amazing expert in mortgage and lending, and then you go and you decide that you are, going to wake up the next day and you're going to say, oh, I'm going to start selling, shampoo now. That's obviously, you have the sales skills, but a lot of those skills are not transferable. So just as a general career tip, common sense tip, people tend to stick within their industry. When you do that, you are establishing yourself as an expert in that industry then, right? So you're going to be creating content about the economy, interest rates. I'm really limited, honestly, on my knowledge of mortgages. So I'm going to stop there, but I shouldn't have used that as an example, but you get it. You're going to be talking about the topics that are relevant to your industry, that might be relevant to your ideal customer, your company's ideal customer. You are going to really be keeping up to date with that news, writing content on it, making content, giving your thoughts, engaging with other people, maybe in that industry or related industries. So you're building a very significant personal brand. If you're taking yourself as a sales professional seriously, that personal brand should really be something that you identify with above identifying with other companies. So, when you are working for another company, a lot of people tend to rely on that company's name. They're with a big, brokerage or something like that, and they rely on that, and they wear the brokerage's merch. They really focus that, giving a lot of content and value about that brokerage. But I think that's the wrong path to go. I think people should invest into building themselves, their own personal brand. And when you do so, and if you choose to go that route, you become a persona. That becomes a persona itself that needs to be protected. So just protecting the basic things like your name and, with trademarking, making sure that you're monitoring the content that you're creating, making sure it's not getting copied, things of that nature, the basic things that you're doing, that should all be protected. Making sure that when you sign up to work with another company, that you are not giving away your intellectual property rights to that company. This happens a lot, especially in the real estate industry. I found, especially in the tech industry, they have these boilerplate clauses in their contracts. Even if they have zero salary and high commission, they still, sometimes those companies will put in that we own all of your intellectual property. That means they own your content, your technically name, image, likeness, any brands that you create and file during that time. You want to be very careful and negotiate some of that out prior to signing it. When you're, building your personal brand, you do not want your company, you leave your company and they come after you for any of that stuff. A lot of people who create personal brands, they tend to find a lot of success and be able to launch their own thing after they leave their company. And when that happens, you are now at risk of being successful, and the more successful you are, your company, your prior company is going to want to stake a claim in that. And if you've signed away some of those rights that, hey, I don't, own my name, I don't own the content I created, I don't own potentially my social media accounts that I've built up and worked hard to create, they can claw back all of that. There was a very famous fashion designer. She was on the show Say Yes to the Dress. Her name was Haley Page, and she lost her Instagram account due to a IP dispute, due to a contract she signed when she was 25 years old, many years before the dispute started. And she lost the right to use her name in public, and she lost her Instagram account. And it took her, I think, 5-6 years, hundreds of thousands of dollars to get her Instagram account back. So, I mean, that was how she was, of course, a wedding dress designer, fashion designer, but she was also an influencer, and she was using her Instagram account, to generate revenue for herself in other ways. So losing your rights to your intellectual property can be really devastating to you. And so it's very important to know what you're signing and what rights you're giving away. And many people, they sign those type of contracts without thinking about it. Yeah, without even reading it. So if you agree to sell away your rights, that's fine, but you need to at least be aware of that. You need to be aware that if, you want to start even a side hustle, your employer might, or main contracting company might want to stake a claim in that. So you need to be very aware of your social media policy, the intellectual policy, and your moonlighting policy. Those are the three big ones that, we really tell people to review. And those are the ones we review as the attorneys a lot when people have questions about what does this mean and what does it mean for their intellectual property rights.
Great. That is super helpful. So even though, like you said, some things seem to be common sense, like read what you're going to sign before signing. As you said, so many people just don't think about it, particularly if it's an employment contract. They're not thinking that far down the road. One thing that you did mention was monitoring.
This is very difficult to do because there is a mass amount of content being put out, mass amount of website stores being popped up every day. It is very difficult to monitor with a fine-tooth comb everything that everybody is doing. You will also drive yourself crazy doing that. So many of these situations, a lot of larger corporations, they monitor, but still there's just a mass amount of content being put out that nobody can truly monitor every single little thing that gets put out. Where this comes up a lot is, people get caught and they send other people the videos, or, somebody takes your photo and they start running ads with it and then you see it. Those are kind of the situations where that pops up. When that happens, you want to address it immediately. And that usually involves getting a lawyer to send a cease and desist and doing potentially a takedown claim, things like that. So there's legal remedies you have when that happens, and it's just not letting anything sit. Do not think you can handle it on your own. Do not let things sit. You do not want those situations to get out of hand, because the longer you wait to deal with it, the more problematic it's going to be. And then the other party, they have this excuse that it's a legal excuse. And it's basically that you didn't take care of this in time. Therefore, you consented to it and you agreed to it. So you don't want to be in that situation where you've now created issues for yourself. So take care of any infringement that you see on your content right away. If you can't handle it yourself, which is always the first step, is reach out, tell the other person to stop. And if that does not solve it within, I would say 48 to 72 hours, you need to immediately get a lawyer to send a cease and desist and get that nipped in the bud, file that, take down on social media, get whatever protection you need, because, the longer you let that stuff get out of hand and the more and more you allow people to do that to you, the more difficult it is for you to ever enforce your rights.
Okay. That is extremely helpful to know. So,
and lots of these sales professionals, you may have protection with I'm just going to add this, you may have protection with your employer or main contractors that you work with, and they may assist you in doing that too. But that's another fine line, is that if your employer is now helping you protect your intellectual property, you're blurring those lines. So lots of considerations there. You want to really understand what's going on, understand the situation, discuss with a lawyer if needed, how to fix all of these problems and, how to protect yourself. And like I said, though, to prevent a lot of this stuff, proactively, what you should be doing is protecting your brand. We do a lot of copyright filing. We do a lot of trademarks on names. And if people have a stage name, so to speak, or a pseudonym they use online, we do a lot of trademark filings for that for sales professionals and business owners themselves when they're creating personal brands. We also do a lot of copyright filings on profile photos because there's lots of fake accounts that can come up. And, from there, we kind of just assist people as situations come up and as are needed. But, it's really good to be proactive in those ways. The trademarking of the name, pseudonym, that type of thing, the copywriting of your profile photo and website. Those are kind of main bare bones minimum. Having a really good privacy policy on your website that it really alludes to all of this and very specifically says that other people are not allowed to copy. Keeping up with, doing a website audit every year. It's not very expensive. Lawyers, most lawyers will only charge a few $100s for it. And it really protects you if you do that IP audit and just know that you are proactive about it. That will save you a lot of headache in the long run.
Great. Okay. Because frankly, I didn't even know that you could have a lawyer do an IP audit. This would primarily be your website and any other public facing. Would it also include say company pages on LinkedIn or
yes,
other
so social media
profiles?
accounts, website. A lot of people have courses. A lot of people have free guides and downloads, things of that nature. Just anything that might have been something they created and are giving to other people.
Good deal. Okay. Last two questions, and this has been awesome as always. The time flies. You mentioned both copyright, trademark. In simple terms, can you explain the difference between copyright, trademark, and if there's any other common term that people hear all the time?
Yes. So trademarks protect brands. So trademark is going to be your name, logo, slogan for the most part. So like the McDonald's arches, the Nike swoosh, those are all trademarks. And then copyright protects art. So it's going to be, I think of copyright as content. So for a lot of people, they're creating videos, photos, blog posts, so poems, also like movies, videos, books, software, architecture, that all gets anything that is considered an original work of authorship or art is going to be copyright. And then patents, which is another term that people conflate with the others. Patents protect inventions. So tools, chemicals, things of that nature, technology, trademarks, brands, copyrights, content, art, patents, inventions. Those are kind of the big ones.
Yep. Thank you. The patents was the other one that I could not think of, and that's exactly what it was. Lastly, you touched on AI. I realize that we only have a couple of minutes, but you did mention, at least in the US, you can't protect AI created content.
Right.
Do you have any other thoughts just around where things are going and what people need to be aware of? Because
I don't think that's going to change.
Moving target.
Yeah, I don't think that will change though. So I think if you are choosing to use AI in your content, which you probably should, there's a lot of ways you can use it to assist you. Be really careful how much it is assisting you. And if you really are retaining authorship of what you're doing, or if AI is just doing it completely for you. So there's a difference between saying, hey, ChatGPT, give me 30 topics about patents that, people in the pharmacy industry would be interested in. There's a difference between doing that and taking 30 topics and making 30 pieces of content yourself from it versus saying, hey, ChatGPT, give me 30 pieces of content about patents that people in the pharmaceutical industry would be interested in, and make sure that you give me a script for all of them, and then give me a full direction of each script, and then also write the caption for me and the hashtag for each post, and also give me a corresponding picture and create a corresponding picture for it. There's a difference between those two ways you use ChatGPT, right? So when you go up in court and the court asks who made this, you're going to have a lot easier time saying that, oh yeah, I just got some ideas from it, versus, oh, it did everything for me and I just basically posted it.
Exactly. Yes, it is a moving target. It's interesting to see where things are going to go. So yeah, I will not go any further down that rabbit hole. I appreciate your sharing what you have. Is there anything, lastly, that I should have asked you about as it relates to intellectual property, the issues that you deal with, that I didn't ask?
No, we covered a lot of them, and issues come up all the time. So people, those are kind of the big ones that we covered, but they might, other issues might come up, and people will have to see what happens when that happens.
Fantastic. Great. And Anna, if people want to learn more about you, about your business, about how they can take advantage of your services, how is best for them to find you, connect with you, contact you?
Yeah, so I am pretty easy to find. You can contact me on any of my socials, which is just my name, ANAJUNEJA, or you can just go to my law firm website, which is just ANALAW.com, just ANALaw.com. And I'm pretty easy to find, and my whole team is very responsive. So if you have any further questions, that's the place to find me.
Awesome. And I remember from our prior conversation that not only you are an attorney, but you've been involved with a number of different businesses. So you also have a business owner hat that you bring to these discussions, if I'm remembering right. Is that
I would
correct?
say that's my main hat. My attorney hat is second to that. Yeah.
Yep. Great. Well, Anna, thank you for making this time. It's been such a pleasure having you on with us.
Of course.
Yes. So I just wanted to thank you on behalf of us.
Thank you so much for having me.
All right.
Appreciate it.
Bye-bye now.
Bye.
Don't miss an episode. Visit socialsaleslink.com/podcast. Leave a review down below. Tell us what you think, what you learned, and what you want to hear from us next. Register for free resources at linkedinlibrary.com. You can also listen to us on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and Google Play. Visit our website, socialsaleslink.com, for more information.